Welcome to the Medovia Menopause Podcast, your trusted source for information about menopause and midlife. Join us each episode as we have great conversations with great people. Tune in and enjoy the show. Quick pause here because this matters. Medovia is proud to be the first and only organization in the U.S. offering a menopause-friendly membership and accreditation for workplaces. We're not a trend. We are not check-the-box benefit. We're a movement for lasting change. We're helping organizations of all sizes shift culture, support their people, and retain experienced talent. Whether you're looking just to get started or ready to lead the way, we've built a roadmap rooted in best practices from hundreds of employers across the globe. If you want to learn more, head to menopausefriendlyus.com and find out how to become a workplace that doesn't just talk the talk, but walks it. Because menopause is a workplace issue, and the best organizations know it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today we have Michele Heffron on. She is an ICF certified transformational life, relationship, and divorce coach who helps individuals navigate midlife transitions. Michele draws from her own lived experience and decades of leadership in the corporate and nonprofit worlds as she guides clients through divorce, empty nesting, and reinvention to discover their authentic selves. We can't wait for this conversation. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much, both of you. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, we're excited. We're looking forward to this conversation. I know we were on your podcast recently, and we just have more and more and more to unpack. So thank you for spending the time with us here today. As you know, Michele, we work with midlife women as well who are navigating menopause. And this time of life can be very, very challenging. Midlife brings a wave of change with divorce, that empty nesting that we're so familiar with, career shifts, you name it. Why do you think that so many relationship transitions converge during this season of life?
Yeah, I was just actually thinking about this within the last couple of days. And I think one of it is that we get to this certain point in time, and maybe it is menopause, maybe we don't even know that's what it is. But I think there's all these shifts taking place, not only in our bodies, but in just who and how we're showing up in the world. And I think why I was thinking about this is because it was about the time that I probably was going through menopause, and I probably didn't really even understand it, is when I made the big shift. And it was when I ended up leaving my marriage and moving. And it was a really scary time for me. But I really remember thinking, now that I'm looking back on it, is that part of it is like, what am I doing with my life? And nothing seems to be fitting the way I thought it was supposed to be. And I think a lot of the women I work with end up going through this, and it might take years to sort of get to that point where you're going, something's not fulfilling. I'm feeling empty. I'm feeling invisible. I don't feel like I'm myself anymore. And I think when people and women are going through menopause, I think there is a disconnect with their partners a lot of times too, because they don't feel seen or heard or understood. And I think so much of it has, and you probably see this so much, but so much of this has to do with not understanding what's happening to them, or for them. I don't know. I do think I see that a lot. And after we had our conversation a few weeks ago, and the more I think about things, I think, gosh, there's a lot more connectivity here than I even realized just a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So for our listeners that aren't familiar with your podcast, can you tell them where to find that replay? What's the name of your podcast, and how can they find that if they want to go back and listen?
Oh my goodness. And I will send you that link to the podcast as well. My podcast is called Getting to the Heart, Life, Relationships, and Divorce. It's with Michele Heffron. my name is spelled with one L. So if you're looking for me with a 2 L, Michelle, you probably won't find it.
Great, great. Yeah, I want them to be able to, listeners to be able to go back and listen to that, just to track that history and conversation that we have there, because there is a lot of dots that connect with women in midlife, and I imagine that there are a lot of fears, that women bring to you as they're considering divorce. What are some of those common fears that they express with
Uh,
you as they're considering separation or divorce in midlife?
yeah. And fear is one of those things that we don't even realize, but it plays into so many parts of our lives. But I'm talking in particular with women, they're, oh, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of, I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive on my own. It's the fear of financial security. It's the fear of stigma around divorce. It's the fear of being alone. Even if they were alone sometimes in their marriage in so many ways, at least they were with somebody and they didn't feel like they were on their own all the time. There is so much that surrounds that fear factor that inhibits us or keeps us stuck from going to where we really want to go, or even exploring what our real true needs are. There's the fear of being able to show up as who you are, because then you might rock the boat, or you might not be liked, or you might feel like it's mean, or there's any number of reasons why that fear factor plays in. But the major ones are the financial piece of it, the unknown, the what's going to happen to me, and if they have kids at this during that time too, because some people do. I mean, many people still have kids. I work with a lot of women who don't, but it's their adult children. How is that going to impact them? I mean, everybody worries. Women in particular, I think, worry about what everybody else is going to think and feel, rather than what it's going to mean to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to get back to that, but first I really want to understand how do you differentiate between a life transition and a true identity shift? Like, what is happening where you really feel like now is the time to make a change at midlife? And this could be divorce, it could be job change, it could be, right, it could be a whole bunch of things. But how do you differentiate between whether this is just a phase that I'm going through, or whether this is a true sort of identity and a life transition that I really want to like take on?
Yeah. What a thoughtful question that is, Kim, because a transition, now that I've done this work for so long, it almost requires a transformation. And what I mean by that is, anytime we are continuing to do the same thing as we have always done it, we're going to get more of the same results. In a transition, let's just say for a career, for instance, you're losing an identity potentially, or a divorce, or you're losing the identity of being a wife and a mother, or whatever it is. There's always a shift in the identity. And it's learning to become and understanding what your real needs are so you can become. And that's where the transformation comes into play. In my mind, it's like we are always in flux. We are always changing and growing. And we can try to stop the tide from coming in. But the fact is that it's going to still come in. So rather than fight it, it's starting to learn how to go with the flow of things a little bit. And transformation doesn't necessarily mean you're going to just throw everything out and start completely over. Sometimes it just means shifting things a bit so you're starting to see things differently. And so our entire life hinges on transitions in our lives, right? And so nothing ever stays the same, even though you could have the same meal Mondays for the rest of your life, or whatever it is, some of the monotonous kinds of things. But the fact is, we're always aging. We're always changing and growing in some way. We're we're always doing something that's shifting us from one place to another. So everything's a transition. But when you're making the decision about a transformation, that starts looking at, well, what else is possible for you, rather than I'm going to stay in this box over here, but I want something to change in my life. So I don't know if I've answered that well, but oftentimes I see, and I've done this myself. This is why everything I do is lived experience with a lot of training to back it up. But I've tried to stay the same and try to keep the things that I don't want to let go of because I'm afraid to, but I want something to change. And it's nearly impossible to do that, because if you're not willing to sort of see things differently and move forward and understand what your real needs are and start getting comfortable with maybe the uncomfortability of, I'm not sure if that was a word or not, but the uncomfortable enough, nest, whatever, is that if you're not willing to get a little uncomfortable with change, then it's going to be real hard for you to really kind of step into what you really want in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we're taught to make a plan and follow it, right? And so you got to follow through, and that's, you made a commitment and here's all the things. Are you seeing a different perspective on women's sort of point of view on following what they want or thinking outside the box post COVID? Did COVID teach us anything about, that that life is short and we should really think about how we want to spend the rest of our life?
I think COVID did accelerate that a little bit. I think there's a whole shift that I'm seeing anyway in sort of this whole idea behind purpose and, what we want in the world or what we want out of life. And I look at this life is short from a little different perspective one time. And I'll just share a little story, because this happened to me when I was, this was years ago. And it was when I was getting a haircut. And I didn't share very much about what was going on in my personal life. And it was right about the time I was in my late 40s. And I knew that something wasn't going well in my marriage. And I remember saying something to my hairdresser. She was so cute with the spiky hair and all this stuff. And she said, I said something about, well, I guess it's all fine because, life is short. And she wheeled me around in that chair, in her little barber chair thing or whatever, her hairdresser chair. And she wagged her little comb at me like this. And she said, life is not short. Life is long. And if you are miserable or unhappy, it's a long ass time to be miserable and unhappy. So you know what? You get to decide now if you want to change that or if you want more of that same miserable life. And I went, wow.
Yeah.
Whew, that was a big wow. And I didn't know what to do with that at the time. I really didn't. But I will tell you, it plays into so much of the work I do now, because there's a lot of people who just want to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait. And it's like, what are you waiting for? You know what? If you have 5 more years left in you, why wait? Why not do something and have a really, really hellacious time with what you've got left? And if whatever age. And so that's why now I look at these things as like, COVID did accelerate that a lot. It certainly did for me. It slowed things down in a way that I needed. I don't know about you two, but I really needed some of that downtime. And there are days when I go back and I wish it was that slow for just a week, or, just because there was time to make dinner together. There was time to go for walks. There was time to just be. And I think for a lot of people, that was a major shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you're talking about and speaking to is mindset, I think.
Yes.
It's shifting our mindset and how we think about transitions, midlife, divorce. And you describe divorce not as an ending, but a chance for reinvention. And I'm wondering what are some ways that midlife divorces can reframe that story, midlife divorcees, rather, can reframe that story that they're telling themselves. So as you work with women, how do you help them change that mindset?
Oh, that mindset change is a big one. And it takes small little steps and baby steps to do it. But it's starting to learn. One of the things you said about, that redirect is understanding and getting very comfortable with the fact that as women, as human beings, we have the right to change our mind. So the way we thought things were supposed to go was maybe what it was supposed to do for the time it did. But now you get to choose something different. We always have these choices. So it's learning how to open up to choice and understanding what you want. So I love working with women in midlife going through this because they start to rediscover who they were. Because some in their early 20s and you don't really even know who you are yet. And you forget all the things that you really love to do because for whatever reason, most of the time we gave it up ourselves, but then we said it was somebody else's doing. And we became invisible in our own, places. And when people start to open up to see what else is possible, and they start to welcome in some different and new ideas about things. And some people move through that faster than others. Some of us who have been ingrained with indoctrinated belief systems through religious organizations or society, we don't always really know what we're allowed to do. And it's about giving ourselves permission to start exploring and seeing what else is out there. So that mindset shift is the big thing. In fact, I don't know if I told you this before, but like one of the books I have many of my clients read is by Dr. Carol Dweck, and it's called Mindset. And it's a beautiful book because it really illustrates so well the way we have been conditioned to believe. And I have to say, when I was reading the book the last time, I thought I had a pretty, growth mindset kind of but boy, I sure found a lot of areas that I didn't. And it's always a good reminder to kind of see what else is possible when you let go of some of your old beliefs. And so much of the work is around identifying patterns and old beliefs and learning how to move through those comfortably and let them go. And there's a lot of, identifying and then releasing things that no longer fit. So I'm big on decluttering space, but decluttering what's in your head too.
Yeah. It's a good book to read another time, and then maybe another time after that, because there's so many things that
some books are meant to be read.
Yes, yeah. But so someone who's trying to reinvent their life and trying to rebuild their confidence and their sense of self, you mentioned you have them read Mindset, but how else do you guide them to be able to figure out what they want? Because we've seen that when we ask women at this stage of life, what is it that you want? No one's really asked them that, and they haven't considered it.
Yeah.
But so how do you figure out what you want? And then how do you help yourself rebuild once you figure out what that is? Because you got down really well the whole deal you had before. And I'm talking about even if you want to stay married but just want to, right? You just want to have a different plan for the next phase of your life. How do we go about that? How do we go about figuring out what we want? And then once we do, how do we build the confidence and the energy and the sort of self actualization to go figure out how to make that happen?
We do that. So first, I want to say that I'm not an advocate for everybody going through divorce. I really think there's a lot of repair work that can be done when we start to understand one another and understand each other's needs. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there because I'm not necessarily advocating for I'm a woman I love love. I mean, love is a big piece, and I want people to learn how to love better. And most of it is starting with loving yourself. And most of us aren't taught how to love ourselves. When it gets down to the, what are your desires? What do you really want? You're right. I think it's about, I don't know what, it's like 95% of us don't know what we want all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we start oftentimes by informing what we want by understanding what we don't want, because most people will tell me, they can give me a list of all the things they don't want. And it's like a list a mile long. I'm like, okay, let's start with that. Let's change these things around then. If you want, let's just say in a marriage, what you don't want is you don't want to feel invisible. Okay, well, if you turn that around, what is it that you want? I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be understood. And we don't look always at what does it look like specifically, is what does it feel like when you are in a place of what you want. So it's starting out slow and understanding that you have to spend more time visualizing what you want in your life. And most of it comes down to how is it making you feel? Because it's an embodied experience. And most people, I mean, it takes some work, I have to say, because we have to spend a lot of time getting out of our heads, like dropping into our hearts and our bodies and understanding how it's feeling when we are in these, when we're in a space of being able to grow and learn and open up to what we do want and allowing ourselves to do that. I do a lot of journaling prompts and things like that for people to start getting this stuff up and out. And I get a lot of resistance from it, because
I think that is why?
Because it's like everything else. If you're going to get good at something, you have to practice and it has to become daily.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I tell people, I love when I talk to people and they go, oh, yeah, I know that. I go, how's that working out in your life then? What are you doing if you know that that needs to be done? And how's that working for you? Well, I don't actually do it.
I know I should do it, but I'm not doing it. Right. Yeah.
It's yoga practice.
Uh-huh.
You don't go to yoga one day and get real good at it. You actually have to work at this stuff. So I'll never forget when I first started meditating, I have to say it was like pulling teeth out of me. And I would set a little timer and I would sit there in the dark and I would like, oh, how could this really help me? And so I get it. But if we don't start safeguarding our own time in the morning or whenever we want to do our work on ourselves, then we're going to fill it in with a bunch of stuff that is more important than ourselves. And what could be more important than ourselves? So it starts that small. It's like there's not a list of 5 things you can do and all of a sudden, boom, you're going to know what you want. It's a slow, gradual getting to know who you are and listening. So one of the terms I use a lot is be still.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be still. I can't do that. I'm ADHD. I'm this, I'm that, blah, da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, well, look, just like everything else, if you had to sit and, in a bathtub for 2.5 minutes, could you do that? I mean, that's how small it has to start sometimes, is really getting people into the habit, but they have to be willing to want to make the shift and the change in their lives too. And if you're not willing, if it's not worth it to you, then you get more of the same.
Yeah, I'm hearing baby steps, which is good. Just take the step, right? It doesn't matter how big or how small, but just take the step. Be still, be quiet so that you can feel. And we don't acknowledge how we feel if we're constantly moving and constantly thinking. So that's what I'm hearing from you, Michele. And just for listeners, that's pretty easy. Not easy to do in practice, but it's easy to remember. Right?
Yeah, but feeling the feelings.
Oof. And feeling the feelings can be scary
Ooh-wee.
too, right?
No.
You're asking me to feel, and I may have stuffed some of this for a very long time. And now I have to feel it.
And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of it is understanding that feelings are meant to be felt. That's why they're called feelings. And understanding that the emotions that kind of get connected to feelings sometimes are the meaning we're making from things. And it's starting to get curious about, why am I feeling this way? And it's really taking, and like you said, it's baby steps. It's taking a deeper dive on, why am I feeling this way? It's getting curious about
Being
these.
curious. Yeah.
And when you can factor in that curiosity and start asking yourself without trying to come up with the answer, letting it come to you, that's how slow we have to make it. We have to slow it way down so you can actually change the frame. You know, it's like watching a film, frame by frame by frame. But if you start to put a different frame for the picture, it's going to start changing what happens, and what is getting projected. And feelings can't really hurt you,
Right.
They feel like they can when you're feeling them, though.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
and there's so much data on the fact that if you just sit with the feeling, it will pass.
Yes.
And I've seen that happen. And the first few times that happened to me, I was like, oh, wow, that was a roller coaster ride, right? I'm like deep in this feeling and I'm just, okay, let me just feel this because this really sucks.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm okay. It's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We anticipate the pain. And it's usually, what do they say? Reality is usually kinder than our thoughts about
Perception.
it.
The anticipation of something happening is always worse than it actually happening. Like you will live through it. You talk about alignment as being really important to live an aligned life. What does that mean? And how do you do that after a big change? Whether it's a relationship shift, a job shift, your kids leaving, like how do you live an aligned life?
That alignment is become my place now, rather than, people often think they're broken after something. They're broken after a relationship change. They're broken after their kids leave home, but it's actually not broken. It's coming back into who you are. So I look at balance in terms of sort of feminine and masculine energies in a way. And if one's pulling us too far over to the one side, we're out of alignment with ourselves. And so then that's where fear starts to come in. And there's like this defiant part of us, and then there's this compliant part of us. So we even shift between those things sometimes. So if you think about when you're being compliant, it's wearing your hair a certain way. This is a silly example, because your husband wants you to, and not doing it the way you want to. But if you're in defiance, you're going to screw him. I'm going to shave it all off today and do whatever the hell I want. But neither one of them are in alliance with who you are. Your true self would just say, you know what, here's what this is me. You can take me as I am, kind of a person, or you can not like me, but I can't be impacted by whether or not you accept me, because I have to accept me. I'm the most important person here. So helping people get into alliance or alignment with themselves is getting more and more true to who they truly are. And that takes some time and effort, because we have become who we identify with in that relationship or in that particular situation. And we have to learn how we're going to be safe and okay on our own, because we know what's true to us. So happiness is part of that, is being in alignment with your own self, because the idea is that it shouldn't take somebody else to make you happy. Your happiness comes from within, and learning that is a very challenging thing when we've always been looking to the outside for our kids to make us happy, or our spouse to make us happy, or whoever else. And so, and that's why you probably know, this work, we fill in voids where we're unhappy with other things that come in, and, it comes in, and it's also a way to mask or cover up feelings. It's like, drinking or overeating or whatever the different vice is. We do these things so we don't have to feel. And when we're doing that, we're kind of glazing over what's really going on, and it's getting kind of more true to our own selves. And that's what I mean in alignment, is balancing out that defiant and compliant piece of us, letting go of the fear so we can come back into our own self and be completely at peace with who we are, and not always trying to figure out what everybody else needs from us so we can be who they need us to be, but not who we need us to be. So there's always a cost, for all this, because you have to be willing to be uncomfortable with that. You have to be unwilling to sometimes disappoint other people. But
Yeah,
That's
it
not
makes
something we're good
sense.
at as women, moms, caretakers. That's the last thing we want to do.
yeah, and constantly justifying why we're doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That alignment piece, though, it makes me think of, we're on one side or the other, right? Masculine, feminine, rather than coming to the center.
Yes, because there's a balance, because it's not a gender thing, it's a energetic thing. It's we all have both in us,
Right.
as
Right.
it's meant to be. And sometimes when we're exercising more of the feminine side, that's when the creative pieces come out, and
Mm-hmm.
more masculine side, we're getting stuff done. I mean, there's
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And so when you can balance those things out, it's a beautiful alignment with who you are meant to be.
Right. We're much happier. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because we're aligned. I'm wondering, as we wrap up here, if you can give our listeners one piece of advice for anybody that might be standing here at the crossroads of divorce, empty nesting, reinvention. What would that one piece of advice be if I'm here at this crossroad?
Give yourself permission to see things differently, and to stop arguing for your limitations, and understanding that the fears and doubts aren't really facts. They're just echoes of your past trying to take you off course. And all those fears have no right to design your life. Only you know what's the best for you. And it's so really not taking a poll of what everybody else thinks you should do, is really spending some time with you and understanding what it is that you need in your life.
Turn
I
off
love
the
that. That's
noise.
good.
Yeah.
I realize that when my intuition speaks for me, I don't need anybody's opinion about it. It just is that, right? And so when you're still and you can listen, I don't need to go, do a social experiment of asking everybody what they think about it.
A survey. Let's survey.
Right. Yeah. What do you
No,
think about
no,
this?
no, no. When we're true
Mich-
to our hearts. Yeah.
yeah. Michelle, this is such a great conversation and we could go on for a long time. Where can people find you?
Thank you. Yes. So my website is micheleheffron.com. I'm on the socials on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I have my podcast, Getting to the Heart. And gosh, what else? And I do have, I'm launching a book club. I don't know when this is going to air, but the first book we're reading for my book club is Untamed. And I think it's
Oh, yeah. Good book.
Best one.
spot on for this conversation we're having today.
That's a book I've read over and over again.
It's another one to keep on the shelf,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Don't
Yep.
get the Kindle copy. We need a hard copy
Yeah.
of that book.
I
Yeah.
have it in hard copy, Kindle, and audiobook.
I do, and I'm taking it this weekend. It's funny.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
You have a nice, good book. We're recording over Labor Day weekend, so nice reading time. Before we let you go, Michelle, though, we ask every guest what the best piece of advice you've ever received or given has been. What would you say to that?
This piece of advice. Um, Gosh, I've gotten so much advice over the years. I think the best piece of advice is one I got from my coach in several years ago. And it is, as women, as humans, we have the right to be, do, and have anything we want and desire. And that doesn't mean in a greedy way. It just means that we don't turn ourselves inside out to please other people. We actually can have it. And we deserve it. And I think that's the one thing that people miss sometimes, is that we deserve to have love in our lives. We deserve to have people surround us who care and are kind and compassionate, and we deserve abundance and all kinds of goodness. And when you understand that you are deserving of these things, as hard as that can be, if you've been conditioned differently, that opens up so many more doors and possibilities.
Love it. A great reminder.
It's a good reminder. It's hard to believe that sometimes, but it's good to try on every once in a while.
It is. Yeah. Put that jacket on every day. You are deserving and you are enough.
Exactly.
Thank you for that, Michele. And thank you so much for being on the show. I'm sure that our paths will cross again. And for listeners, until we meet again, go find joy in the journey. Take care now.
Michele.
Thank you for listening to the Medovia Menopause Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for future episodes, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. Medovia is out to change the narrative. Learn more at medovia.com. That's MIDOVIA.com.